move on to our very, very first game of our hop around. It's Aston Villa taking on Arsenal. Unai Emery comes up against his former team in the Premier League. Villa are 11th as we speak. They've got 8 wins, 4 draws, 10 losses, and a goal difference of -8. While Arsenal are second, they have 16 wins, 3 draws, and 3 recent loss being that much anticipated game, or coming from that game with Man City at the Emirates. They've got a goal difference of +26. All right, let's move it on. Emmanuel, let me start off with you. Arsenal have got to pick it up and do it all over again. All of us had been waiting for that game at the Emirates. It came, it went. Now everybody knows what's going on. Arsenal have a game in hand. They are second. They are, I think, 10 goals behind City, right?
Yeah, thereabouts. Their goal
10,
difference is significant.
Is significant. How do they respond? Because a lot of people feel that Wednesday night is a very important marker in Arsenal season. Even though they are football games, there's some people think that, look, this could just be it. But how do they respond? Away at Villa, you've lost to Man City, you've lost your lead. How do you fight back against a manager who kind of knows this team really well?
I think to start with, they'll need a win. And that's the best response they can give themselves. We all knew that the ultimate litmus test would be Manchester City. Yes, the FA Cup gave us an idea of how this match was going to go. And I think that game, Arsenal really watered down their squad. Yes, City won. But then this game, it has showed all the issues, let me put it that way, that people have been raising. This team is too young. They have the youngest manager, blah, blah, blah. And if you look at all the goals City scored, all those 3 goals were gifts, if you ask me. They weren't goals that City literally tore the team apart or really worked the ball and got those goals. If you look at the first goal, Tomiyasu, missed kick. Second goal, a lapse in concentration in defense. They could have even had a red card with Gabriel and that tassel he had with Haaland. Very unnecessary. And then the third goal came in because obviously they were trying to chase the game and those things happen. But then in total, if you look at Arsenal's performance, it just shows you experience versus inexperience. Someone who's been there and done it and someone who hasn't. And that's how the match played out. Because if you look at even the quality of chances they had, I think in the first half, Arsenal were the better team by far.
Yeah, they were. I was very surprised when I was watching that game. Arsenal looked really good.
Nketiah had some very 2 good chances. Maybe you'd argue if you had a recognized proper striker in the name of Gabriel, he scores. It changes
I slightly disagree. I think if there's one thing Gabriel can do is miss those chances too.
You're somebody who's very critical of Gabriel's tendencies, his finishing.
Yeah, I think they probably would have created more chances if Gabriel was on the pitch. They probably would have played better. They probably would have handled the second half better. But I don't think that those chances are necessarily goals with Gabriel Jesus. That's just my...
I would say he's a better finisher than Nketiah, so I would give him a better chance at scoring though. But then if you look at the first half with where Bernardo Silva was placed, and I think they should have exploited that more. And that's what an experienced team would do because they had him on strings with Saka. He had, I think, 3 or 4 tackles and he got booked later. I think they should have really gone at him. Even in the sequence of the game, you can see that Odegaard drifted there and all those things. You want to build from the back, yes. But if you had an experienced campaigner, in a situation where you see, no, the spaces are closed out, hit it long. Or you just signal. They move forward. I mean, they move their press back. Then now your defenders can drop and you take the ball. You have more space. So all those things come, small little things. And Manchester City took advantage. Aston Villa, first game, 12:30. They are going to Villa Park. You know the fans will be up for it. But then, if you ask me personally, are Villa really better off than when they had Steven Gerrard? Not really much.
I see.
They are probably just better coached and more organized. So for us now, this is probably...
count for something.
Yeah, but I mean, since he came, they've won probably 2 or 3. Yeah, they beat Manchester United, which was the biggest of them. But there have been matches where they could have won and didn't win. They also lost against Liverpool. So,
and they lost strangely to Leicester City.
Exactly.
At home, yeah.
So and then they go to the Etihad and disgrace themselves. Keeper, miscommunication with the defender. So for us now, if they really want to get their season back on track, they really need to win this because you don't want to go into a neck and neck with City. It's going to be mentally draining. And for me personally, I don't think this squad are mentally that strong. They don't have enough winners in there to be able to mash out the boys and then ride through the storm.
So let's talk about Villa. Emmanuel was talking about this very strange run under Unai where I think they beat Man United. But in between that and now, it's not been the greatest times at Villa.
Yeah, and when I look at their style and the way Emery likes to play, if they don't survive the first half without conceding, the first 30 minutes without conceding, the game becomes they can't come back.
They don't score early.
That's what I mean. Comebacks are very difficult for this team. They're a team that cannot play on the front foot. Emery doesn't like to play on the front foot, and that was part of the reason he struggled at Arsenal, because when he was coach of Arsenal, teams were not coming out to attack Arsenal. He had to attack them, and that's why he had limited success at Arsenal. So when I look at that, the game plays into their hands in the sense that they can sit back and try and wear Arsenal down. But the thing is, I believe that Arsenal, when you look at the way they play, there's very few games where they don't create chances. I think aside the Everton game, of the games I've really watched this season, almost always a chance will come, a chance or two will come. And for me, that's why the Man City game, even though they lost, I feel like it shouldn't dent their confidence that much, because they were the better team for me. And if they were more experienced, they would not have given up the goals they gave, because the first 2 goals, which were really the ones that kind of killed the game. I mean, Haaland's third goal, all things considered, the game was done by them. Yeah. Those first 2 goals were all individual errors. There was nothing Man City did for me when they had the ball. I think they had one set piece that hit the bar. Exactly. That gave me a feel like, oh, Man City are really in this game. So it was an encouraging performance, but at the end of the results are what matters. So they have to bounce back. They have to get this win. And so the thing is, and that's the thing about Arsenal. They start very well.
Yeah,
they start. Is true. So if they get that early start, they get that early goal, and Villa have to try and open up, and then they get a second goal, I think the game is over. I think it's very difficult for Villa to come back, because we saw Villa try and come back against Man City later in the game, and they had a few moments there, but there wasn't that much quality there.
They weren't convincing.
They weren't convincing. So I like Emery as a coach. I think he's quite a good coach, but he's too cautious, and he needs to be a bit more adventurous sometimes, because it's not if you try and sit back every game, your team needs to be able to play on the front foot, and because of his lack of adventure, they struggle on the front foot.
I see. Interesting. For our viewers, those are pictures from the Arsenal v Man City encounter.
Nathan, can I ask you a question? Did you think that was a penalty?
It reminds me of the World Cup incident. So initially when I saw
Livakovic one.
Yes. So initially when I saw, I think I followed the ball, and then I said, oh, Nketiah didn't score that. Then I saw it again, and then they gave a penalty. When I looked at the replay, I kind of understood the decision. I don't think it was the harshest of penalties, to be honest. I don't think this is not a strange decision. Yeah. So I won't fuss too much over that. I mean, I don't know. Did you think it was a pen?
Well, I think these kind of penalties should be given more often. They are not given more often because they look at, okay, once you hit the ball and the keeper clatters into you, they consider that you had a fair chance to score and you didn't. But then, let's be real. If you are in my line of vision or you are coming at me, it also impacts how I'll hit the ball. So, yeah, I do think this should be given more often.
It really took me back to the World Cup episode, Livakovic.
My thing about this, for me, about the penalty was that if this had happened anywhere else on the pitch and they gave a free kick, no one would shout.
Exactly.
When the ball, so a foul is a foul. A foul is a foul. But Emmanuel is right. They don't give these penalties often, and I honestly believe that sometimes the referees, because it's a penalty, referees want to be 100%. I think they are less likely to give some fouls in the box because they are not 100% sure. And also VAR is not going to give you a penalty, going to call you on a 50-50, which is why we also don't see VAR being involved a lot. So I think that's what makes a lot of fans feel like, because we don't see it usually given, it's not a penalty. But I think it's one of those things. Because VAR has they are looking for something that's a complete mess up. Like, they can't believe the
beyond all reasonable doubt.
They can't believe the person made that mistake. So it's one of those things.
I mean, final thoughts on this. We'll talk about Nottingham Forest versus Man City, so we get a different angle to the Arsenal-Man City game. But final words on this. Since we were talking about Villa and Unai Emery and the need to attack, or the need to be a bit more adventurous, when you look at the Villa team now, who could possibly cause Arsenal problems when they meet over the weekend?
I mean, Leon Bailey, Buendia, even Oli Watkins. They have a lot of decent players who can do something in the final third. I think even Coutinho, if he has a very good game, I think Villa actually have a lot of quality. And that's another thing about Villa. Villa have been spending a lot of money. I think it goes under the radar because they are not really challenging for Europe, and they don't really. But they've been spending a lot of money. I think 2 windows in a row, they spent about 100 million. Yeah. You can say, okay, they sold Jack Grealish for 100 million, so fair enough. But even the season before they sold Grealish, they spent a lot of money because they had just got promoted. They were trying to beef up their squad. So they do spend money. So you expect a lot more from them. This is a team that should be in the top half based on the players they bought. You might argue that, okay, these players are not that, but some of them are coming from Champions League clubs. They've had Champions League experience, or they've been playing the Europa League. So it's not like they're buying just anybody.
The goalkeeper is a World Cup winner.
Yeah. Yep. So you expect to see more of them. They should be in the top half. So it remains to be seen how the season turns out. But if you want to be in the top half, you can't be a team that sits back all the time. Because at the very least, when you are at home, a lot of teams that are battling relegation in the bottom half are not going to come on you. They are not going to attack you.
Yeah.
So that strategy only works when you are away, and mostly against top half teams who know that their fans are not going to come and expect them to be cautious. So it's a very difficult strategy to do when you have such a good squad, quote unquote, in my opinion. And that's why we saw Emery so successful in the Champions League. But I believe they weren't even able to finish in the top 4 in La Liga. Because in the Champions League, everyone who they met in the knockout rounds felt that we should be beating Villarreal. Juventus felt that way. Bayern Munich felt that way. Liverpool felt that way. We even saw them in the second leg, I believe, against Liverpool, put up a very good fight because Liverpool were going at them and they had that space on their counter to make things happen. So Emery really needs to rethink that part of his coaching philosophy, and that's where it lets him down. Because I believe that he has a lot of promise, but he needs to kind of be a bit more adventurous.
Emmanuel, just finally, if you look at Arteta's setup against Man City, should he make any changes as they take on Villa?
I think if Partey is fit, he comes in straight up.
Yeah.
He
That's
gives
a big loss.
Very big loss. He gives that midfield a better balance for me. Yeah, Jorginho is someone who he'll keep the game running, he'll keep the motor running, but I think Partey in the whole, like his presence alone gives that defense a bit of solidity. If you look at stats, it actually favors Jorginho defensively, but on the pitch for me, I don't see it that way.
I think Jorginho was at, in 2 of the 3 goals, you could tell that they considered. If he had probably applied himself a bit more.
And that's the thing about Jorginho. It's not his fault, but if he was a bit faster, a bit stronger, and he could get a bit more physical with some of these situations, he could have made it a bit more difficult for Man City. Okay. I'm not going to City and say he's the reason they lost, blame him for the goals.
I'll give some blame to him because as an experienced campaigner, I would have, especially with those balls where you could see clearly that City had you in a pressing trap, he could have told the keeper, no, hold it, let's go long. Because you're 31 years, you've won the European Championship, you're an experienced campaigner. You will know some of these things. Exactly. And it's another reason with Arteta's recruitment.
He's a coach on the pitch. They say he's a coach on the pitch. So I agree with
If you even see some of the players he's brought in, experienced Premier League players. So I'd expect more from him. So I think for us now, if Partey is fit, he comes in, they should give Aston Villa a go. In the first 20 minutes, if they don't get a goal and Aston Villa grow in confidence and they score, it could be a longer.
I also think Trossard should start. I think Martinelli is a bit off from, and I think maybe you should consider Fabio Vieira for Xhaka because I believe
Xhaka's
that
lost a bit of steam.
I think Xhaka's decision making the final third in crucial moments was the difference between Arsenal getting a few more opportunities that could have swung the game in their favor. There were about 2 moments, both after the 70th minute, one before the second goal and one after the second goal, where if Xhaka had been a bit more proactive,
him, almost approaching the penalty,
and then kind of he was a bit.
That chance he had to shoot.
Exactly. If he had been a bit more proactive, maybe something could have happened. So maybe Trossard and Fabio Vieira, someone else in that midfield for Xhaka, just give him a bit of a, because Xhaka is an engine. He doesn't rest. He plays every minute. So sometimes maybe he's a bit fatigued. Maybe that will help them. Because they also have the Europa League coming up.
They do actually.